Now, I want to talk about some do's and don'ts. Here are some do's. If you have borderline personality people in your life, or you are a borderline personality, do get educated. You do want to learn about this disorder. And the thing is, if you've got a laptop, iPad, smartphone, computer, you're walking around with a library. You know what a library is. It's a big building with books in it. We used to have to go there to get information. Now we can just kind of punch it up and read it. You want to educate yourself. Knowledge is power. And if you can educate yourself about this disorder, it will help you cope with it, whether it's you dealing with somebody else or dealing with yourself. You do want to get personal help or support because you have to take care of yourself. It's particularly important if you're living with someone that has borderline personality. And you may say, hey, Dr. Phil, you're my helpline. I don't have money to go to a therapist or whatever. Okay, maybe this is your education. And there are support groups out there. You can find them on the internet. People that live with borderline personalities, that were raised by borderline personalities. But the important thing is you've got to take care of yourself. When you're dealing with a borderline personality, you want to use open-ended questions in what I call a two-way communication model. Now, I'm going to take a minute to spend on this. You don't want to ask yes or no questions. You want to ask open-ended questions. And an example is you can say what you want them to hear you saying, but you need to finish it with, tell me what you hear me saying. Because if you don't, you have no idea how they've interpreted what you've said. You may say, hey, listen, I'm going to have to cancel our plans this weekend because my mom called and she's coming in town, so I'm going to have to entertain her this weekend. So is that okay? That's not an open-ended question because you're going to get a yes or no. Is that okay? Yes. What they may have heard you say and how they may interpret that is, I'm tired of you. I don't want to spend time with you anymore. You're not good enough for me. I'm not going to spend any more time investing in you, and I'm leaving you like everybody else in your life has. Okay? You say, well, wait a minute, that's not what I said. No, but that's what they heard. And in a two-way communication model, there's a feedback loop where you say, tell me what you heard me say. And you may say, well, that's kind of offensive, isn't it? No, it's not. Just explain and then say, I'm going to take care of my mom this weekend, so tell me what you're hearing me say. If you said, do you understand, that would be yes or no. You've got to finish it with, tell me what you're hearing me say. Give me some feedback. And then they will reveal, well, I hear you saying that somebody's a lot more important to you than I am. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's not what I said. This is about timing. My mother's coming in. I see you 52 weeks a year. I see her 2 weeks a year. So I need to spend time with her, and I'm going to really ask that you support that for me and not take that personal. I want you to understand that. Can you tell me what I'm feeling here? Can you tell me why I would say that to you? Get that feedback loop. It's two-way communication. That's very important. You do want to encourage responsibility. Don't fix everything for these people. You want to encourage responsibility. Do take threats seriously every single time you hear them from a borderline personality. If they make threats, I've had all this I can take, I don't even want to be in this world anymore. That's a veiled suicidal threat. Do take that seriously. The suicide prevention hotline is 1-800-273-8255, 1-800-273-8255, or 911. And you may think, look, they're just pulling my chain. This is emotional extortion. They're just trying to leverage me, so I'll do what they want me to do. You may be right, but you're not qualified to make that decision. I'm not sure anybody is. It's a myth that people who talk about it don't do it. And I'll tell you what isn't a myth is that a lot of suicidal death is accidental. People didn't really mean to kill themselves. It was really a cry for help. It was really manipulation, but they miscalculated how quickly the drugs acted or how dangerous what they were doing was in terms of driving or using a hose to pump carbon monoxide into a car or whatever. They just miscalculated the lethality of what they were doing. Or they were going to call you to come rescue them, and whoops, you didn't pick up. They got voicemail, so they were going to call back in a minute, but then they got too groggy and dropped their phone. Take it seriously every time. If somebody makes that threat to you, then just sitting right there with them, call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline on the speaker box and let them talk to somebody that is qualified to deal with it, or call 911 and they will send the sheriff out there that will do a wellness check, and they may take them to the hospital and have them evaluated by a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Do encourage these people to get into treatment and support them when they do. You want to get educated, but you also want to get help for others. Do set boundaries. It's really important that you set boundaries because they will pull you in and pull you down. And do try to manage your response because they are going to blame you. There are 3 C's you need to hang on to here. You didn't cause it, you can't cure it, and you can't control it. So know that. This is above your pay grade. The 3 C's. You didn't cause it, you can't cure it, you can't control it. You have to manage your response here. You can't go into the shame tent. You can't go into the guilt tent when they put that guilt trip on you because you didn't cause this. And don't burden yourself with fixing it. You're not the one to fix it. I said it will respond to treatment, but you heard me describe DBT. These are highly trained professionals that conduct this type therapy that helps these people if they're willing to get the help. And you're not qualified to do that. Now, it's really important that you keep yourself separate from this because, I mentioned that there were 4 types of the borderline personality: the discouraged or quiet, impulsive, petulant, and self-destructive. But there's something that's common to all 4 of these types, and that is there's a relationship dynamic that goes on. There's someone that's primary and somebody that's secondary. And there's the borderline primary and the borderline secondary. In families, for example, the parents are usually primary and the kids are secondary. At work, the roles aren't always as clear. I've seen primary borderline behavior in someone that might be reporting to you as their supervisor. And I've then seen the boss actually being secondary, the one that's being manipulated. So you've got to really pay attention to if you have a borderline personality in your life that's pulling on your emotions, that's pulling on your behavior, that's doing all the things that we talked about in the beginning. These people that have these rapid changes, this impulsivity, this overreactivity, they're just roller coasters emotionally. So here's what I want you to ask yourself. Who has borderline behavior in your life? And stop and think about that right now. Write down the 10 key relationships in your life. Your best friends, your closest coworkers, the siblings that you interact with the most, your mother, your father, if you interact with them a lot, your spouse, whatever. Write down the top 10 core relationships in your life. And then go down that list and ask yourself, are any of these people that I would have to say possess a lot of these characteristics that we've talked about in terms of borderline personality disorder? I mean, instability in relationships, moods, behavior identity, fear of abandonment, chronic fear of being left, overreactivity, impulsivity. Those things. Are there people on this list of 10 people that are uniquely unstable, that vastly change in short periods of time, that get into relationships really deep, really fast, and then they fall apart just as quickly? People with fear of abandonment, pattern of unstable relationships, identity disturbance, impulsivity and self-destructive behaviors, self-harm, extreme emotional instability, chronic feelings of emptiness, explosive anger, transient stress-related paranoid ideation. Go through the 10 core relationships and ask yourself, do I have these people in my life, and what is it doing to me? And are they pitching? Are they throwing this stuff at me all the time? All the time. Are they doing that? You have to decide, I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm going to have healthy boundaries. I'm going to do the things that we talked about on the to-do list. I'm going to maintain those boundaries. I'm going to encourage them to get help. I'm going to take care of myself. Now, let's talk about what some of the don'ts are. Don't get sucked into their constant need for attention. Don't play the game. They will suck you dry. They are a bottomless pit. Don't take things personally. Don't be crushed when they blame you and accuse you of abandoning them, hurting them, betraying them. You can't take that personal. They're the ones that take it personal. No, this is who they are. It's not what you do. Remember, I said 3 C's. You didn't cause it. So you can't take things personally just because they're accusing you and pointing their finger at you. You can't be crushed by that. Don't normalize their dramatic behavior and ignore your intuition when it says it is not okay for them to do what they're doing. If you're seeing them be promiscuous, if you're seeing them take risky behaviors, if you're seeing them do things that you just know in your heart, this is just not okay. But they've done it so much that you just start normalizing it in your mind because you say, I'm just not going to react to this every time. So I just start accepting it as it's just normal. It's just who they are. It is who they are, but it isn't normal. So don't start to normalize their dramatic behavior. It's not okay if he goes out and sleeps with a different girl every 3 days because he gets so deep into relationships so fast that he actually avoids intimacy. It's not okay if she's promiscuous. and sleeps with everybody she meets. That's not okay for him or her. It's not okay if they're doing risky behavior, drugs, alcohol, driving under the influence. Those things are not okay. Those are high risk behaviors that puts them in jeopardy because they don't value themselves. Do not allow boundary crossing. When you put up a boundary and you say, okay, we're not going there, we're stopping right here, you're not going to call me at 3:00 in the morning with your drama. Don't allow it. Don't always go the extra mile and be that go-to person for them to vent with. Don't be the one that they call every single time. And you may say, look, I want to be a good friend. I've known them since the 3rd grade. I want to be there for them. No, you're enabling them. You don't want to do that. Don't believe they're going to snap out of it. I don't care what they say. If they say, okay, look, I know you're so great and you've been there for me, and I promise you, it's the last time. Not going to do this. Yes, they are. They're not going to snap out of it. And you can wear yourself out. You can get up at 3 a.m. You can sit up with them and cry till sunlight. You can assure them 1,000 times that you're not betraying them, that you do love them. They're not going to change. They're not going to change because you can't fix it. They need professional help. Encourage that. Support that when they do it.